Thank you very much for coming, Barry.
My pleasure.
It was good to see you. Take care. Any further comments on item 7A before we leave? Item 7B, which is project plans. Okay, we'll now take up item 7B, which is modification to the agenda to discuss project promise. Christine?
I'm just curious of what the plan is, or the direction that Project Promise is going to be taking next year.
So we've been working diligently. I am pleased to say I believe we have a new director. I've offered somebody the position. I'm just waiting for confirmation from that person, and I believe they will take the job. So hopefully in the next couple of days I'll be able to make that announcement. So that's exciting. Just for background information, for anybody who doesn't know, we actually have 2 grants through Project Promise. We have what we call kind of the big grant that covered all the schools with the exception of New Hampton. They are currently we're going into year 2 of a 5-year grant. New Hampton has their own grant, I'm not sure why that is, but they do. And they are currently going in year 4 of a 5-year grant. As part of New Hampton's grant, going into year 4, the grant is reduced by 25%. And then next year it's reduced by an additional 10%, so that the grant only covers 65% of our costs. The reason for that is the sustainability piece, which again we'll have to look at for the big grant as well. So probably over the next year, this will be a dialogue we'll need to have with the board as far as what does our after-school program look like when it is 100% funded by the district? What does the district see as what does the board see as an after-school program? What does the board want to own? You know, what doesn't the board want to own? What does that look like? So we will have to engage in those conversations because we'll need to start, at least at New Hampton, start to plan for when we become the ownership of that grant. Now, certainly there is ability to reapply, but there's no guarantee that that happens. So we do want to plan around that. Because of the changes in funding, because of some of the things that have happened, we've made some programmatic changes. One of the most significant is really trying to tie our school day into the after-school program, remembering that this is not a child care grant, this is not a you need babysitting after-school grant, this is really about an extended day. It's really about extending learning opportunities for all students. And so we are looking to, right now our site coordinators are all part-time. Typically they're people who work during the day and cover the program after school. We are changing them to actually full-time positions. Right now we also have positions in the budget called an educational liaison. What we're just finding is we just need better coordination of those roles. So we're actually changing our site coordinator positions to full-time positions, or 6-hour-a-day positions. That they would work basically kind of 12 to 6 so that they would be able to make the connections with teachers during the day, with students during the day, and bring those right into the after-school program. Again, considering this as an extension of the school day at some level to be able to do that. One of the changes that will happen, which we're still working on logistics of, but Danbury and New Hampton, all the other sites go to the TTCC on Friday, so we pay a fee to them for them to provide Friday afternoon services. One of the changes will be that Danbury and New Hampton will also participate in that on Fridays, again as a cost-saving measure. At some point we have to reduce these costs, and that was one of the same ways. We will provide transportation from the students' home school to the TTCC, and we will provide it back as the late bus, as we have in all of our schools. The late bus, so students can still participate in the program. It will just be consistent across the district for that. We also, in the past, on early release days, have had the program run for the entire, so if early release is at 12, we have had the program run from 12 o'clock on. There's two concerns about that. The one concern is that, one, it costs us more money that isn't budgeted. The other is that the volume of staff that are participating in Project Promise are now not participating in the professional development. So we have teachers and support staff that we've now arranged, we have very few professional development days, that we've arranged professional development on those days that are now not participating. And so we've worked with the TTCC. They're actually going to open and be open for those days. And so they will be able to service students from right after school on. If again, childcare is an issue for parents, that is an option for them to do. One of the other significant concerns is in our staffing, because we have been clear that, and Mike has done a great job researching this, is that the after-school program is part of the Newfound Area School District. So if you are working 40 hours a week, you cannot work more than 40 hours a week without receiving overtime. If you are working under 30 hours a week, as soon as you go over 40 hours a week, it's combined and counted as towards your role, which means you're now your benefits eligible. So we really have to watch that. Teachers can work as many hours as they want because they're a salaried position. But we are so that is gonna be a significant change for next year, and watching that, because obviously if we can't afford, if we have to start making reductions because the grants are being reduced, we can't afford to pay overtime to staff. And so those are some changes. We're looking to get those out. I know there was a meeting this afternoon with the site coordinators. I have a letter drafted that's gonna go out to staff in the next couple of days, just kind of talking about this. So they're gonna, anybody who's watching this is gonna get a little preempt of that information going out. We are working on a letter to send out to parents, hopefully before the end of the school year, letting them know what those changes are so that they can be prepared for next year. But again, in general, it's really focusing on ensuring that we have a strong, solid budget, that we're really thinking about how things are changing, changing the focus really to the extension of a school day. And with all of those come some changes. We've tried to keep the structure of the program the same, so nobody will really see a change in the structure. What we're hoping is that the connection between the day and the afternoon is even stronger now. So that's a general update.
I think this will wake a sleeping giant.
Yeah, it probably will. And unfortunately, I mean, I think that the program at some level for lots of people, and I get it, is that people need a place for their child to go after school. It's a challenge, but we have to continue to tie those together.
What other alternatives have maybe you looked into, whether it being, bringing up the cost per day? Is that
So
something?
yeah,
that
so that's another thing we are doing that. So we have, again, so right now, it is, I think it's like $5 a day, or parents can sign up for a session for $80. So next year it will be consistent across all elementary schools. It will be $8 a day. There will be no session charge. In the sense you can't prepay for a session, it's $8 a day. For all students, it will be $4 a day if they're on a reduced lunch, and it will be free for those students who are on free lunch, again, supporting those students. But we are, in part of those fees that we've calculated in at $8 a day, are added into our program revenues that are counterbalancing some of the expenditures we have. So that was, in order to not cut more of the program, that was the balance of coming up with those dollars, was to make sure we're consistently charging.
And when you're busing 60-odd kids over to, like, what is that kind of cost? And then the TTCC and having, which is my understanding, a K through 12 group of students together, how does that building support that kind of?
Yeah. So busing is not a huge expense because for the most part we have buses that already come these directions. So, I mean, we're already doing it at Bridgewater Hebron, so students get on the bus, they come over here on Fridays to the TTCC. Obviously, Bristol Elementary School, I think they probably walk. But they're already participating in that program and have been participating in the program. We met with Les, they have enough staff we've talked about adding staff if we need to, we've discussed that with them. They're comfortable with their numbers, what their numbers look like at this point in time. Again, I know it may not be ideal for some parents, but again, this isn't childcare, and the grant requires us to follow certain procedures and requirements of the grant. And at some point, the big grant that we get is going to be reduced by 25%, which is going to be that's going to be $60,000. So at some point, the board and I have to have a conversation around what is important to this community for an after-school program. What does the board support in that?
Jeff?
Knowing that there's a number of board members concerned about this, I'd like to make a motion that we table it and schedule it for discussion next board meeting, an extensive discussion. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be discussed.
A motion's been made to table. Is there a second?
I'll second as long as it gets put on the agenda.
So you don't have another board meeting till August.
There's been a motion made to table and a second. That motion is not debatable. Therefore, we need to take a vote. A motion to table to a subsequent meeting, or did you say?
To a subsequent meeting, yes.
Okay. That would give the superintendent some flexibility scheduling.
For clarification,
I think that it needs to be on the public agenda, and I think that the full board needs to be here because I think there's a lot to discuss.
so what would you like me to do with the program?
Well, the motion on the floor is to table this to a future discussion, and it's been seconded. So, without being liberal here and allowing more commentary, I need to call for a vote. All those in favor of tabling the motion to a subsequent meeting of the board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No, because I had a couple of questions.
Okay. Looks like the majority vote had prevailed. There's 4 in favor and 2 opposed. The minority being Hebron and Alexandria, Leah,
Thank you.
So,
with Danbury absent. Okay, so the discussion has since been tabled for a subsequent meeting discussion. And I would give you the flexibility to discuss with the chair when you would like to put it on the agenda formally and post it.
okay, just, I need to be clear, I can't hire staff. Can't send anything home to parents. Can't rewrite the grant and submit it. So it could put the program in jeopardy. Just need to be clear.
That doesn't, I don't understand why that would be the case.
Because you have to we have to resubmit an update of the grant every year with updated numbers and programming information,
Well, why wasn't it on the agenda tonight?
because it's not something that is typically board approved. It's
Okay, so
programmatic.
how is that
So-
going to affect it?
Well, because it has to go to the Department of Ed. It's a grant. So we have to give them the structure of the program, all of the changes.
You can't have changes like this that you're just presented tonight that without a conversation, it's, you gotta look back at the history behind this whole setup.
And we're trying to put structure into it and stay within a budget that is provided.
No, that's not, I don't think the TTCC is the answer for everything.
I will add, we did talk to the Danbury Community Center, who was supposed to get us a proposal, who did not.
I guess the problem is, I don't understand how that affects anything, just delaying discussion on this.
Well, because we can't get any grant approval until we provide them the updated information.
But we weren't going to discuss that tonight, right?
No, because this is programmatic, it doesn't necessarily go to the board. I wouldn't seek the board's approval on something that we're doing within the school. That's just a programmatic change.
I guess I'm not clear on why that's a problem for delaying discussion until, my personal feeling is this would be an excellent topic for planning and dialogue session, which we could focus 2 hours right on. Is there, let me ask you a question, is there a topic selected for June, the end of June?
There is no meeting, I won't be here, I'll be at a conference.
Okay.
So there was no scheduled board meeting on your, when we gave out the calendar, there was no scheduled board meeting in June.
One reason why I don't like to schedule meetings in advance like that.
Proposal, you did not.
I guess the problem is, I don't understand how that affects anything, just delaying discussion on this.
Well, because we can't get any grant approval until we provide them the updated information.
But we weren't going to discuss that tonight, right?
No, because this is programmatic, it doesn't necessarily go to the board. I wouldn't seek the board's approval on something that we're doing within the school. That's just a programmatic change.
I guess I'm not clear on why that's a problem for delaying discussion until, my personal feeling is this would be an excellent topic for planning and dialogue session. which we could focus 2 hours right on here. Is there, let me ask you a question, is there a topic selected for June, the end of June?
There is no meeting. I won't be here. I'll be at a conference.
Okay.
So there was no scheduled board meeting on your, when we gave out the calendar, there was no scheduled board meeting in June.
One reason why I don't like to schedule meetings in advance like that, but be that as it may, doesn't mean that we couldn't schedule a P&D meeting, but if that's the desire of the superintendent and chair. It's obviously the desire of the board to have a public posting of the topic so that it can be discussed more fully.
I'm not opposed to a special meeting.
Or you mean scheduling another one?
Yeah, you know, on some other,
What does the schedule look like, Stacy, as far as the end of this month? Excuse me. We'll give the next, maybe a couple of weeks.
That is 195.
We could do Thursday the 26th. Monday the 30th.
How about Monday, June 30th? No objection to the 30th?
Is that ahead of your
Planning and
deadline?
dialogue?
No.
It's not ahead of your
Well,
deadline, so just a meeting for grants.
Okay, how about if we schedule a planning and
Doesn't matter.
dialogue session? Sorry? Planning and dialogue session for June 30th with this topic.
Okay, so now, what are the consequences if you can't submit for the grants?
I don't know.
That's gonna be
I'll have to
past the
ask.
deadline for the
Well, it will be
grants.
the last day. Usually the grants start July 1, so I will have to ask what the consequences will be. I don't know.
I don't want to put that into jeopardy, however, I just feel like the communication piece has to be put out there. I don't know, I
Well-
just think there should be alternatives.
Would 4 days do more time? I guess I'm confused about, if you were gonna go ahead and go through with the grant as structured.
Yeah, with these changes. Yeah.
Right. The question here, I guess, is if there's a feeling on the board that we want to have the public's input on this. Is that pretty much where, I know that's one thing.
So I'll schedule for June 30th, 6 o'clock, 6:30.
Either that or the 26th, which is a Thursday, which is an alternative, which gives you 4 days to do something. This is a little bit awkward because we moved to table this discussion. And the only other thing we can do to continue discussing this is a motion to reconsider that, which has to be made by someone in the majority
For today or at another meeting?
for today to continue the discussion. Otherwise, the matter's been tabled and we're talking about scheduling it for what would be either Thursday, June 26th or Monday, June 30th. Again, just as a planning and dialogue session, which would allow us to focus on the topic. I suppose, I have a question for Stacy. I suppose that if there was a deadline to deal with, you would just reapply, and then if the board chose to do something substantially different, then you'd have to decline the grant. Or restructure it.
Rewrite it again.
That's where we're at this point.
So June 30th, 6:00, 6:30.
Would you rather have it on the 26th?
Doesn't matter to me.
4 days isn't going to make a difference.
What is, normally there's a deadline when grants have to be submitted by.
Right, so the grant
What
starts on
is-
July 1. So
No,
typically before July 1.
but there's no, they haven't sent out a date when the grants have to be submitted
By
by.
July 1.
Okay.
So we submit them, they get them, they're considered okay to, work off of those grants until they're approved. There's no debt, like, there's not a June 15th date, it's, the funding starts July 1. And we have summer programs that use those fundings.
Okay.
Similar to Title I,
Yeah.
if
It's all the
you
same.
might get approval, the actual official approval for the grant, but we can, later on in the year, and we can still fund positions. Technically, I'd have to back those. If you didn't get the grant, the general fund would have to pay for it, and most likely you'd cease funding completely. So, there's some grants that,
But
even though
because
statistically you're
they're,
going to
We're gonna
get,
get, yeah.
but because they're 5-year grants, most likely it's more of a renewal rather than.
Right, it's not a new
And
grant
that-
we're getting, yeah, but you have to rewrite the focus of it and what you're changing for the following year and where the funding pieces are going.
For all this,
Well,
I'm in favor of the earliest possible date.
well, that's why I was asking if the 26th would be better for you.
I think we should go with the earlier date.
I'm inclined to think that having 4 more days would be helpful. So any objection to selecting the 26th? Hearing none, the meeting will be held on June 26th on Thursday evening at 6:30 here. Okay, that item has been tabled until that date and time. Project on this grant. That brings us to the modified agenda item 7C, which is recess and scheduling at the Newfound Memorial Middle School for next year. Sue?
Okay, well, we talked about, we were told that the middle school is going back to block scheduling. We were told that it had been that way for years before, not so many years, a few years, and I'm not so sure that it was the best thing, or the best received, or the best for the children. It's a very long block of time for them. If you have an excellent teacher who can teach that way, so that they have a certain amount of being lectured to and a certain amount of time to do their work with some help from the teacher, it's excellent, but not every teacher teaches that way. Also that the 6th graders are not getting recess, which in a nation where we have so many people that are overweight, I feel really badly that a 6th grader doesn't get a recess. But they're 11 and 12 years old. They probably need a little time to run around in between their classes. But the block scheduling, I think you really need to look into a little bit further, because just because we're adding, or not adding, but changing so that one of the blocks is a study hall for is that what they're doing over there?
I think,
We added an intervention block.
Okay, so, I don't think it means that we would have to go to the block schedule. I don't know. I don't understand, but
Well,
that's the only answer.
I thought we heard from Stacy at our last meeting about through Eric specifically.
Yep, when we talked about what we're doing to change.
Yeah, would you care to,
So, I mean, one of our goals was to provide a longer period of time for students to learn. Because a 7-period day, and honestly, I would love to see the high school go this way. It's just a longer, is it longer? Yes, it is. But for students to get more engaged and more on task, so in science, you actually can do a whole lab. You're not doing half a lab and then coming back the next day and doing the other half of the lab. It also, with the middle school schedule, trying to fit everything in between band, chorus, algebra, foreign language, we're actually adding our ultimate goal was to provide an intervention block, so a good response to intervention model, so that we could assure that every student was going to either have enrichment or remediation during that time period. This was the only way to get a schedule done. Regarding recess, I did ask the question today, because it was asked of me. It was my understanding, so Eric said he has been there for 8 going on 9 years, and they've never had recess for 6th grade. What they do in the beginning of the year, while the kids are kind of transitioning in as 6th graders, they do go out for recess, like the team makes a decision, we're gonna go out for recess today at this time, as a group to provide those supports for the earlier, you know, when they're younger 6th graders. But as time goes on, that changes. And again, we could provide recess to 6th through 8th grade, but again, it takes away from academic instruction, which is a focus of ours for improvement.
So, the high school is doing something similar, having a block, but it's on either side of lunch.
So yeah, so it's not really a
So-
block, it's only a block because it's 4th period, but it's a longer period because of the fact you have lunches in there. And that happens.
Two are being used for that. Two are being used for the sort of, either remediation or.
Right, so we kind of created, we created this 4th block where everybody will have study hall.
Right.
And so with that, everybody will have an ability to get to teachers for remediation and to have more one-on-one contact with teachers.
So you couldn't do something similar to that?
No, because of the way the schedule is set up. So here at the high school, because students take classes, so you kind of plug them into classes. At the middle school, it's a class, so you rotate around, you know, and you have staff we have to cover, you've got unified arts. It's a little more complex at the middle school because of the more you don't have kids that are, you don't have a typical 7th grade year, kids sign up for a class. We gotta make sure the kids who are in algebra get algebra, so it's a little more complex of a schedule.
So I'm gonna ask Mimi to comment.
I was actually brokenhearted when we went from the block scheduling to the 7 blocks a day. So many middle school kids don't do well with transitions. The longer you can leave them in one place, the better. This way they only have half the transitions that they have in the block scheduling. 48 minutes is not long enough. It is not long enough to complete a lesson and help kids get started on their homework, because you've lost the first 5 minutes and you've lost the last 5 minutes. So you've got 38 minutes to teach science, to teach social studies, to teach reading, to teach any of the subjects. So I was thrilled when I found out that hopefully we were going to have a longer time. I can't think of a teacher in the building who won't adjust like that. Seriously. The kids enjoy it so much more. I know it sounds like a long period of time, but it's not, because the activity, you have to plan activities for this age group. Boom, 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 boom. There's no downtime. And it will actually give them a chance to learn into it.
I think we've asked.
Because I've been there 15 years and I've seen both, and they've never had recess for 6th grade since I've been there.
That's true.
You get them wound up and you can't get them back down again.
Well,
So,
what happened was when they transitioned from having a 7th through 12th grade to having a middle school, those kids who had been in 6th grade in the elementary schools getting recess no longer got them. So that's when the dissatisfaction started.
I hear an argument for K through 8. I think we've asked Stacy to improve test scores and learning in the district. And we saw the test score presentation, and we saw the proposal to make this change to effect a longer learning period. And so, how can we micromanage the superintendent in a diametrically opposed posture to what she's recommending to improve test scores? So, I mean, that's my take. Ben?
Roughly how many years have we not been in block scheduling? So we had the block
I believe it was-
scheduling roughly.
The year before last.
3, 4,
It's
a blur, I'm sorry.
I think it's close to 3.
I think that's somewhat important from the standpoint that Mimi's comment about the transition either into or for probably a good chunk back into block scheduling and that time management portion of it. And then I think it's and Stacy's not ignorant, I recognize that in those, in certain professional development, when it's noticed that, those 3- and 4-year teachers that maybe aren't making the transition smoothly because they haven't covered that, then there's that component. I never went to block scheduling. To me, it just sounds like some weird thing that honestly, when I was in high school, Newfound was doing and nobody else was doing. And so, I don't totally understand it, but I think, Vincent Paul is correct that if this is the track that we should be going down to, then I don't think it's a bad transition back.
So one of the goals is to have some time for the teachers to actually help the children while they're doing their work instead of teaching and then sending them home with it. So I would just like to see that goal.
There's a chance for way more hands-on
Yeah.
things, way more. You can't do a lot of hands-on in 40 minutes.
Anything further, Sue?
No. That's it.
Okay, anyone else have any further discussion on the recess question? Item 7C. All right, that brings us to public comment, section 8. Was it funny because I said section 8?
It was funny because
I
Heather
said
was on
that.
I didn't see you there before.
perfect timing.
We'll now open up the meeting to public comment to talk about anything to your heart's content. Anyone have anything to say?
I'll be brief.
Please identify your name and town.
Annie Learned from Bristol. I just wanted to come because I have a concern about a staff change at the high school. It's my understanding that the teacher who would have taught my son's scheduled to take AP Calculus next year, and that teacher, it was my understanding, is no longer with the district. And so I'm concerned on a couple of levels. I'm concerned that the reason why this teacher left, he's an outstanding educator, and it's really a loss for our district that he's with someone else now. I'm concerned that it's probably because they're going to pay him more money. I know we say that we're competitive with what we're paying our teachers, but if we're losing an outstanding educator to another district because we're not paying enough money, then in my opinion, we're not paying our teachers enough money. So I'm really concerned that we're losing this caliber of teacher for this reason. My other concern is the ability to offer this class next year. Both myself and my son have heard rumors that there's a very small number of students that are signed up to take this class. I think it's maybe 5 or 6. And that, number one, that they might not be replacing this position, and 2, that they might not be able to offer this class. And I'm super concerned about that because my son's been planning on taking this class and he needs this class. And I'm really concerned that he's not going to have that opportunity. I understand that the district is shrinking in numbers, but there's only so few teachers that we can get down to. We can't funnel all of our students into the same types of classes. We need to, and you heard Jesse speak tonight, if we want to be continuing to turn out this caliber of student, we need to offer the right caliber of classes. So I'm really concerned on that level, and that's really what I just wanted to bring my concerns forward. I know my son would have been here as well. He's actually, frequently attends meetings with me, but he's home studying for finals. So I'm his voice tonight. I'm sure that he will share his concerns with the administration. He's really, we're really both very concerned about this, my husband as well. So I just wanted to share that. It's a great loss. You're welcome.
Anyone else? No further public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, which is approval of minutes. We have before you some blue draft minutes from prior meetings.
I've got a change,
Jim?
correction. On page 2, under public comments, the second bullet, I believe that's Todd Westfall.
I had that one. Please change Toad to Todd.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Okay. So, the first page, the roll call vote in favor of going into non-public, so add in favor. And also add Sue Cheney arrived at 6:10, because down below she does, or she makes a motion. And
You getting this, Leah?
Yes.
And then the last bullet there, the parens, minutes recorded by Ruby Hill. Okay, and then the next page, fourth line, the way it reads now is, and now she hears there are other grant issues. Should be, she hears now there are other grant issues. Not at the end.
Anything further?
Page 9. And then you have the 17, second bullet. You have a capital A for believe.
Where are you?
Page 9,
Second bullet.
second, no, section
Oh, section 17,
2,
sorry.
second bullet.
Yeah.
You have a capital A.
Where are we? Where are you correcting? Oh, to leave?
Yeah.
You want to make that big A a small A?
Right.
Okay.
Maybe
Alleviate instead of the medicine?
Yeah, that is a brain name. That would be A-L-I-E.
It's funny she asked me that. I guess that was a
A-L-E-V.
word that was invented during that meeting.
Yes.
Like, it's
Oh, thanks.
What else you got, Dawn?
That was it.
I have a bunch of corrections. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Ben?
The first is like half of the minutes, just my name, L-A capital R.
You gotta point out where you're at.
Yeah.
What
it's-
page?
Well, page 1, definitely L-A capital R-O-C-H-E. Those present, so 3, and item 4, the roll call vote to go into non-public.
Okay, so it's misspelling of your last name.
Yes.
That should be a global search and replace. I think we can handle that.
The only other one, I guess, something of a question is that looking back at other minutes, and I think in some of these, there's the minority vote,
Yes,
and there isn't
yes.
on this one. There are some places where it is, and some places where it's just the abstentions. So I guess would be the direction of whatever policy we have that I didn't really look at. Sorry. So just a concern that I'll bring up, and
Well,
I don't know what the correction is to
I'll
it, but I'm
mention-
sure somebody does.
I'll mention a notation I have on page 9, the last bullet above item 17. It says motion to go back to the old format of the agenda. Recorded vote, 2 yes, 3 no, 2 abstentions, 0 absent. New Hampton and Groton abstained. It should also read the minority vote of, I believe it was Bristol and Bridgewater, and it should indicate what happened to the motion, which was that the motion failed. So that needs to be added.
And, well, you're right there. You know, right above the old agendas are similar, delete the,
Where are you?
one, two, three, 4 lines above that same bullet.
So go to the bullet above other business,
Yeah.
the very last sentence.
Yeah.
Stacy Buckley said that both of the
Four
agendas will be
lines.
similar.
Oh, that, eliminate that Article V, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have that one. You getting that, Leah?
Yes.
Also, under 17, other business, again, the recorded vote was 3 yes, 2 no, 2 abstentions, and it should say the motion passed with whomever was in the minority on that should be recorded by their towns, as well as the abstentions. I don't know what that record was, but you'll need to go back to the audio to determine that. There appears to be no record of my concern with regard to streamlining the review of minutes, which was also achieved with the prior agenda format, and I didn't see that in here. Can anyone else find it? Because that was this is the experience that I was talking about. The minutes become transcripts, and we spend time fixing the transcript errors, rather than my point, which was to just record as little as possible that accurately reflects what it was the board did, so that we don't spend this time correcting what are essentially transcripts. So I don't see any of my comment regarding that topic, which was an additional concern of mine regarding this topic. So I'd like to ask Leah that if you go into the audio and fit that in the corrections, I'd appreciate it, because I certainly did make that point. I believe on page 8, I got a few more. On page 8, the last bullet, on that very topic, what the benefits were and how streamless it was. I think it meant to be the word streamline. You catch that? Okay. Anything further on the minutes for May 12th? Sue?
Just one thing, I think, well, 2 things. Okay, page 7, under announcements and recognitions.
Oh, I see that.
The first line, accommodation, should that be commendation?
Yes.
What?
Yes, I heard that too.
The other thing, it's not really a correction, it's a suggestion, I guess. I know that we have the public comment explained, footer, okay? Does it have to be on every single page? Can it just be on, say, the first page? Because it seems like a waste.
It was a footer in our prior agenda.
On every page?
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But does it have to be on every page?
That's just a procedural thing. I mean,
Hate to waste ink, you know?
I have a question on page 4, I'm sorry, page 6. Section G, under what would be 10, I guess. Nominations of new professional staff. Actually, this was the election of the new professional staff, was it not, Stacy?
Right, it was not, I nominated them, you elected them.
Right, so we placed this on the consent agenda, so shouldn't that read election of new professional staff? Please
Well,
correct that.
Isn't it nominations or
It's her nominations. What if we
Where
didn't
does the
elect?
record show that the school board elected the nominations of Stacy Buckley?
When we went
Do you want me to write nominations and elections? Nomination and election. But it kind of covers both sides of it. Does that make sense?
Sure. That would be best. Nomination and election of new professional staff. Anything else for this meeting of May 12th? Okay, moving on to the meeting of May 27th. Actually, before we do that, in the spirit of doing motions immediately, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended for the meeting of May 12th?
So moved.
Sue moved to approve as amended.
Seconded.
Seconded by Dawn. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended signify by saying aye for the meeting of May 12th.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The vote was 6-0-0 with one absent vote. Or excused, I'm sorry. Okay, moving on to the minutes for the meeting of May 27th. Again, like section 8 on page 1, the motion to approve the nominations brought forth by Stacy Buckley, moved by Don Franklin. That actually should read motion to elect.
As nominated by.
As nominated by Superintendent Buckley. Okay, Leah? Then on page 2, third paragraph says Vincent Paul Migliore asked if scores could be, it says broken down further to each individual elementary school. What I asked for was if scores could be provided of the individual elementary schools. It's a subtle difference, I guess. Any further comments on the minutes of May 27th? Anyone? Hearing no additional comments, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended for May 27th.
So moved.
Okay. Jen moves for the minutes of May 27th. Is there a second? Dawn second. Move to approve as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the vote is 6-0-0 with one excuse, that being Danbury. Okay, I think we're done with that item. We're now into correspondence and reports. Everyone's had an opportunity to review the correspondence and reports. Does anyone have any commentary on that?
The budget committee meeting, there wasn't a need to do anything until September.
Yeah, I'm trying to schedule a meeting for either, I think it was the 21st or 28th of August.
Mike, your report.
Yes.
I've been fighting this battle for years, and I would wager a significant sum of money that under item 1, all towns but one have paid May dues. Could you please identify that town for us publicly?
I can't actually, I believe we all have now, so
at the time the report was created? Was Bridgewater delinquent again?
I gotta tell you, I don't know which one wasn't.
I would wager that it would be Bridgewater.
I'd be happy to report that. I've been pulling that off in most of the reports.
And the spreadsheet, it shows Bridgewater still, one's paid for was April, and the rest of them were May.
I did discuss also with Bristol. This is a tough time of year for cash flows for some of the towns, right? So we looked at what we have for cash flows for the school district with the receipts impede operations in any way, and they were paying us in a little bit smaller increment, but they will be paid up, and they have a guarantee that they'll be paid up fine by June 30th. So it is a little bit tough. We have the ability to give them leeway in this, as we would want them to give us leeway if we had, an issue too. And of course, they're always very quick to respond with issues with permitting and things like that if we need it to work with vendors, so that makes sense. They always do pay, so I took down the wall of shame. I don't need to shame the person that's unfortunately the one coming in, right? We do monitor cash flows, so we just make sure that they do pay.
I encourage you to identify the towns. It helps when we go back and beg them for payment. There it is again. I've been fighting that for a decade. Any comments on correspondence and reports? Anything else?
Just a couple of
Sue.
things, yeah. I noticed in the high school report, it said 36 newfound seniors were acknowledged at the New Hampshire's college program. I thought that was a pretty good percentage, yeah.
And that's a program where students commit to taking more rigorous college preparatory coursework.
And let's see, 37 of, this is in the middle school, 37 of the 40 students on the middle school track team made it to states this year. That was impressive. I did make it to...
Two came in first.
Ah, yes. Good. And I did make it to the middle school concert, and I was very, very impressed. From the 6th grade to the 8th grade, it's very impressive, yes, to see what they can do for their age and so forth. And some difficult music, some of those were difficult pieces. So. I guess there's so many things. I don't have time to list them all, but there are things in every school that are impressive. So.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else? Okay, I'd say we were complete with correspondence and reports, if there being no other questions. I think we're going to talk about potential fund balances later, right?
Well, I'm a little surprised someone commented, we expanded this report for this month, right? I hope you all had a chance to look at it. I did isolate our contingency lines. Those generally aren't isolated in a report like this, but we pulled them out by object. The reason being, once you see where the contingencies were put, we know we pulled those out of next year's budget. The total contingencies that I found in the budget were $76,000. We did address some issues with special ed where we used the contingency designated for special education to cover additional costs. You can see that within the budget we are still doing really well this year. So we're way beyond using essentially the balance of contingencies within the budget. There are some items on there that you should really look at, because these are items that were initially not budgeted for. So we have additional funds, and we spent a lot of time actually meeting with administrators to make a comprehensive list that really affects children. Also, there's the review of the school boards, the technology issues we're addressing here. We took a look with technology with our Josh Malloy, who's our technology manager. And we discussed it with the town of Bristol, who does some of this too, Ray, and some outside input, to look at what are our real concerns in this meeting. At the last meeting, there were some people that cannot hear the presenters. So that's a definite concern. When we're talking, the audience can't actually hear. We don't have any amplification device. Also, this is not a typical hard boardroom, right? So mounting devices like that are a little bit difficult. So we're looking at microphone systems that would not only allow us to amplify sound, but also record it correctly and clearly. That's a part of the problem too, when you're looking at minutes. Sometimes, you know, they're ad-libbing some of these items, right? So we want to make sure that each person that talks is clearly recorded, including the presenter. So what we really look at is a comprehensive look at replacing an audio-video mixer, which is the broken part of this component system, adding in a microphone-type solution to improve the audience's experience as well as our recording experience. And in here's actually a look at also providing 2 cameras that will allow us to kind of a studio pan, tilt, zoom, eliminate the need for standing cameras, which also could save us some money in the long run. This is a quality enough system to allow it to be used by the school district for productions. So it's not just going to be used for board meetings, and it will allow us in education. We're trying to, you know, it's not something you want to use just once a month or twice a month. It's a lot. This is a pretty decent amount of money, $12,000. So if you're going to put it towards it, it should be something that we can also use in education to bring kids up to those kinds of technological advances in audio and video mixing. So it also allows us to essentially put a picture and a screen so that we can record this. We can live stream it through a laptop. So we can always back down if the board thinks that's too much money. There are lesser video mixing devices that don't. So we have room. We looked at education needs. It's up to date with technology. It's not the highest. You know, obviously anyone who knows this equipment knows that just a single camera can go for $8,000. So we're not looking for the extreme, but we're looking at something that will adapt with our network, and our students will be able to use it, so it's not just a once-a-month item. So that's why that's on there too. The other items are pretty clear. Most of them are involving books and improvements to the buildings that we need.
Is this an argument for expending those funds, or just your...
Yeah, actually, that's item K, priority list for unreserved fund balance. It's on the agenda.
Which you're going to get to anyway. So.
Okay.
I did include it on this sheet because working with Stacy, you get to see kind of the whole picture of where we're at for expending.
How much?
You'll notice I didn't really do much for adjustments in the budget this year, so there's some accounts that are overexpended. The adopted budget that was loaded in the software, I don't believe the exact adopted budget that was voted on. So next year, I have a solid point in time, the exact budget that was reported on. And that will stay. So all adjustments will be very clear too. So it'll be very easy to justify it. And that helps us with budgeting. Why did we budget there and need to adjust? Is this a trend? So I let some of these lines come in. One of the lines I'll draw your attention to is Don brought up at the last meeting in district tuition.